Hi. In this session, we will see how to create a simple NetWeaver gateway service. The transaction is EGW to create a NetWeaver gateway service. This is the place where we create our gateway services. So usually we create our gateway services based upon two things. One, we have to create it through an RFC, or we can make use of the existing business object to create our gateway service. So for this, create a simple RFC remote enable function module, and I'm going to use that remote enable function module to create a gateway service. The transaction is C37, and I have already created a gateway services. So what this remote enable function module does is it fetches the data from the S-flight table and it returns the output. So before you create a gateway service, you need to have a proper understanding of what is this remote enable function module or business object gives the output. This gives me the output for the value I have entered. For the same thing, I'm going to create a gateway service. The first step would be to create a project. Just giving the project name and description, and I'm putting it in a local object. As we see here, when project has been created, we have to create these four things. We have to create the data model, service implementation. The runtime artifacts will be generated by the system itself upon generation. And service maintenance, we have to add to the service. So first step, I'm going to create a data model. Now this data model which I'm going to create, depending upon the RFC. So I choose right click on the data model, choose import RFC or BOR interface. So I'm just going to give the entity name as flight. The remote enable function module type and on enter. Now in the wizard you will get what are the importing and exporting parameters that the function module returns. For this example, I'm just going to use the exporting parameters. So anyway, the function module will return me for default char ID and con ID. I'm specifying the key value. I click on finish. Now if you see here a structure for entity type will be created. Just don't want this property, so I am deleting it. So we have created our entity type, which is nothing but the metadata structure. The next step would be to create entity set. So here in this version of the gateway server, the entity set will be created with an extension set at the time of creating the entity. But in the previous version, you will have to create it manually. I choose this invert function to choose all the options. Just choose all the options and click on save. Now we will implement the service. So if you see here for our entity set, we have all these CRUD operations. So in this example, I'm just going to read the data from the database table and I'm going to display it. So basically, I'm going to perform a query operations. So I'm just right clicking on the query and I'm clicking on map to data source. Here once again, provide the name for the remote enable function module from where I wanted to map the data source. So in the right hand side, it displays you the parameters. So I wanted to map it with the IT flight. So you have a field here called propose map, a button here called propose mapping. When you click on this, it will automatically map it to the values which are available with the same name. Okay, so char ID is mapped to char ID and con ID is mapped to con ID. So now we are done with our service implementation part. So we have mapped the output from the RFC to the output for the to the output of our service. So save and check. Click on generate button. Now system will ask to generate the model class and data provider class. Just click on OK. System will generate the necessary artifacts. I'm storing everything in a local object. So now everything is done. If you see here, we have this list of development artifacts created. The last step would be our service maintenance. So in order to expose it to the server, outside the server, we have to expose our service. So we have the registration status as of now as none. So my first step would be to register the service. So I click on the register for this local system. Just provide some local clients. And this is where I'm just choosing the local object and I'm clicking on. Now, if you see here, the registration status becomes green, which means the service which we have created as of now that I am displaying it to the that I'm registering into the local gateway service. Then my next step is to maintain the service. If you see here, the raw data of the service has been enabled. This service, we have to click on this gateway client button. It shows you the REST features. Here you can check this get, post, delete operations of the service. Here, due to some configuration issues, I was not able to check it over here. So I am just going to the output in the browser. Login for statement.